To go check out Twitter for a second. Oh, I forget. I didn't change the thing. I'm live right now. Everybody can hear me. We'll see.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here from Oilers Live with another Mega Thread Monday. Tweeted out the wrong day. That's where we're at now, right? I don't even remember what day it is anymore. So it's Monday, Mega Thread Monday, and having said that, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Mike Dursa. There you
Well,
go.
you could be an advanced stats guy.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you all the people that Connor's better than, I guess. Yeah.
So, Jason Kenney like to say Edmonton is the mountains today or something, and Ryan Rashog tried to cover for him, saying that's where all the families can go. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. You know, I guess before everybody jumped on, and made fun of Kenny for that. I really don't know what the criteria is going to be for family being allowed to come, be a part of it. If you're inside a bubble, can you leave the bubble? Like, I don't know. It did seem kind of funny, like showcasing Jasper and Banff instead of Edmonton itself. But I don't know. So
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it did a lot of attention today.
I think it's funny because I'm a big Edmonton supporter. Like not just the Oilers, but I love the city. And there are so many things in Edmonton that you could, promote, especially this time of year. I know we're in the middle of, the COVID-19 shutdown and not all of the great festivals that really make Edmonton so great in the summer, but there's still, I mean, the River Valley is beautiful. I think they've got, if it's to be believed, they've got a pretty good idea of what they want to do in terms of, making it sort of like that whole area, that whole ice district, making it into an area where the players can have fun and mingle with each other and stay out of the general population.
Right.
Yeah. I personally though, I mean, as I tweeted out last week, I mean, and I had heard from what I think was a reasonably good source, that Columbus was going to be the location. And then today, of course, and I don't, you know what? I don't tweet many things like that. So, it's funny that I would tweet anything that still is a rumor. But no matter where it is, you're not watching it live. So who the hell cares, right?
Yeah.
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 You still got it's Jacqueline commented earlier on my retraction. She said the watch party's still in the same location, right? Which is your couch.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So does it matter? I don't know. Like maybe the only thing that would matter is in terms of showcasing what the organization could do for you as a player in attracting free agents. I don't know. Like, does that make a difference?
Sure, but yeah, I mean, this isn't hosting the World Juniors or an
Which we
All Star
are, right?
or the
Yeah.
draft or yeah, um, it's gonna I don't, yeah, if every team in the NHL is in Edmonton for an extended period of time then everybody that watches those teams are gonna get to see little blips of the city and the panovers and that kind of thing. And if you do it right, that could lead to some future tourism. Um, at the point of when if it went down, yeah, those teams are all going to be eating and staying in Edmonton, and a little bit of entertainment, whatever that means right now, because that's sort of undefined. But so there's a little bit of an economic boost. It's not going to be the same thing though, I don't think, as as if the Oilers were in the playoffs and they were hosting home games with, everybody in attendance, and you know people that drive in from out of town and whatever to go to those games. It's not going to be on that level, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to be on that level. And then the other thing is, I mean, most players go home for the summer. This is not this is not the Edmonton they will get when they're playing winter hockey in Edmonton,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I don't know what it really does, other than maybe when they're maybe as a host city from a tourist sort of scenario. Maybe there's a I don't know. Maybe there's some spin-off, right? Marketing wise, like when you watch the Tour de France, they show little areas of, the surroundings, and as they go to break or whatever, they talk about here's Jasper, and, here's shots of the families going, if the families are even allowed anywhere near the players, that is,
right.
right? Like there's some talk that maybe they will be in later rounds. I don't know. But here, I'll tell you this. I think that the video was a waste of time. But from what I've heard, I think that um, Edmonton's put together a nice little package, which is what we thought from the beginning. There's so we've heard so far. Vegas had it for sure. I heard,
Yeah.
I heard from a really good source that Columbus had it for sure. We've all heard that hockey is going to even happen. I mean, Tampa Bay shut down their facilities, right? Um,
Yeah.
Austin Matthews got. Yeah,
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh, but Austin Matthews got coronavirus, right?
Yeah, no, I like
Um,
to joke about Matthews about anything, but I don't. I'll stay clear of
yeah,
he
yeah.
did
I mean,
he did something
exactly.
before Connor here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
But
it's
it's
I mean, the reality is it's we're far from over. My belief is after talking to George and talking to everybody is that when you're young, fit, you got you probably won't affect you the same. So I suspect Austin Matthews will be just fine, and all of the players. I mean, we've not heard anything serious about any young athletes globally that have got it that haven't. A couple tennis players got it the other day.
yeah,
Yeah. We got Gray Wolf 5867 on Periscope. Goes by Donald. Says the mountains is far away. False advertising. Exactly. Yeah. And Bob, Stats Guy Bob says it's still exposure. Every night you're going to hear live from Edmonton, and I agree with that. There's some exposure to it, but as far as watching for you and I, it's still live from my living room.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
If things improve, maybe at some point fans can be in attendance, but I don't know. I think with this whole virus thing, things move at some days at a snail's pace, but some days at a McLaren F1 pace, like you know, in the negative and in the positive, like things can change overnight with the status, and things can get better. Um, it seems to be the snail's pace is more the positive news, but and the negative can be fast. But yeah, I mean the kind of training camp idea was mid July too, so we'll see where we're at in 2 weeks. If a bunch of new cases prop up, then maybe the whole thing sort of gets kiboshed. But if you don't hear much and those guys that got infected recover, then maybe we're okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of, lots of people, you see it a lot where they kind of have this attitude where, just scrap it, shut it down right now. But I almost wonder, if you do get all these guys there, healthy, tested, and you do place them inside a bubble, that they're almost better off being inside an NHL bubble than they are in like Florida or, their home city. It might be better for them, honestly. So I'm not saying scrap it right now. I'm sort of a wait and see, and let's see what happens here in the next 2 weeks and go from there.
Well, and I think that's. I mean, you said it right. Things, sometimes they don't change very often, and then sometimes they seem to be changing, by the minute. But however however it happens, right? I mean, this. Yeah, that's. I guess the big question is are we even going to have hockey, right?
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is,
And really, the answer there is we don't know right now
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, there's a part of me that really thinks that it's going to happen 100%. And I still kind of believe that. I think that it will happen. But then, maybe not so little things happen like, Austin Matthews, Tampa Bay, and whether we agree with it or not, Austin Matthews is a star in the league, and you certainly don't want your stars getting sick, right?
Yeah.
There seems to be some truth now to this discussion around the players maybe not being 100% for it. Donald says, what happens if they're playing and a player gets COVID and then they're out of the playoffs, right? That particular player or potentially a whole team, right? Like, if it spreads throughout a team. There's just so many. And so here I was thinking, okay, great. They've got this quarantine idea. They're going to go and they're going to play. And then we find, this little tennis thing put on by Djokovic, and a couple of pro tennis players get the coronavirus, and everybody's calling them boneheads for even putting it on.
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes the board of governors for the NHL maybe think twice before going ahead with it. Anyway, long and short is there's no guarantee of hockey right now. I think they're certainly going to they're certainly going to try at some point, right? Like the world is like they're trying everything to get just back to normal, right?
Right.
And live with what we have, which will mean that we will just mean that we have to find a way to have, if they want to have sports or we want to have sports, if that's important to us as a society and culture, we'll figure out a way to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think we're a couple of years away before coronavirus goes away. And hopefully they learn enough about it so they understand when it is, to be concerned about. And I still have never met anybody that's got it. So other than George,
Right.
yeah,
Same here.
yeah, but that doesn't mean it's. I'm not in the. I drove by the Yellow Jackets or whatever you call them in Calgary the other day. What were some of had to be about 20 of them on the side of Memorial Drive in Calgary with chemtrails aren't real or chemtrails are real and coronavirus, the pandemic is a conspiracy and a whole bunch of great things. I will. I don't wade into public opinion very often, but I will tell you, I believe this is very real, and we need to at least take it seriously until we understand what's going on. So that's about all I'll say about it. Anyway, that's the most we've talked about COVID.
Yeah, we've done pretty well for.
We
It's
have
been a
done.
few months now. We've been doing this, you know.
We have done pretty well. Uh, yeah, I don't know if you've thought of anything to discuss today, but I do have a couple things I wouldn't mind chatting about.
Well, then you can fire away, and I'll go
Yeah.
after.
Um, I've now since we've gone on shutdown, I've probably watched that February 1st game against Calgary
it's
about a dozen times.
delicious, isn't it? Every time.
Oh yeah, it goes up there as one of my favorite games, at least in modern history.
It still blows me away that that was the first goalie fight in Battle
Yeah,
Alberta history. It really does.
it does seem a little bit odd, right? Like I could totally see Fear and Vernon going at it, or something like that.
The only thing with maybe the only reason it never happened then is because Grant really doesn't get angry. Like you don't really see Grant rattled and angry and mad.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
he's
there's
intense. Like
there,
he's a
there,
competitor, so
he is, but
yeah.
there's clowns online that chirp at him all the time, and he handles every single one of them with such amazing grace, and he doesn't have to even engage them, but he just takes it all in stride, and everything the guy does is like a walk in the park.
So when there's every time I watch that game, there is. Thanks for tuning in, Donald. By the way, Donald's taking off. Uh, when I when I watch that game, I pick up something else that I just love every single time, and then there's some themes there that just remind me. And the one that came to mind was had to do with Sam Gagne, right? Like he was the like he got that game started, right? That fight, he got that fight started.
Yeah,
He finished the game off with that nice little clapper into the corner against Riddich. Um,
yeah,
he just looks good in the oil drop, and like I get why Holland traded him away. Given the same situation, I probably would have done the same thing. I don't think it turned out the way Holland had anticipated, but it's still early, too early to tell what the return was.
yeah. And you know what? You may never know. Like if this doesn't reboot here, then you're really never gonna know if
Yeah,
that
you'll never
was
know.
viable or not. Because
And the reality
uh,
is now we've got a shot at getting Gagne back.
right,
If you are Holland, do you take that shot?
yeah. I mean, if you can get Sam to sign basically a league minimum contract to come back as kind of a utility player, uh, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. I don't think there's if you're worried about guys down in Bakersfield, being stalled by Sam, he's gonna be um, your 13th forward kind of guy, So if you're bringing guys up from Bakersfield, I think you want to play him more than that. So I don't think he's getting in the way of future really, you know, and he still can be serviceable and he still can put the puck in the net. So
Yeah, I don't
uh,
think like. I don't know that he signs for a team that's going to send him down. Maybe I'm
no,
wrong. Yeah,
no, I don't put him on a two-way deal. I give him a one-way deal, but as kind of the understanding that you might be in and out of the lineup. It's
yeah,
not going to be
kind of like a Green scenario, right, where you expected him to be in and out. I think like I would really love to see this guy back in an Oilers uniform. It just, he's just there's a number of players that you think about when you think about the Oilers. He's one of them. Smitty, of course. Obviously any of the greats, but Gagne and Ryan Smith and those type of players that want to play in your city, right? That want to play in your club. That really like, they are, they're Oilers, like deep down. Like I think that and Gagne is one of those special people that I think just embraces the community wherever he is. I mean, it sounded like he got to Detroit and he was already setting up, charities and the like.
Yeah.
Um, but you don't get a lot of players like that, and I've said it before. I don't think in terms of places to play. Edmonton is high on everybody's radar in the winter, right? Like I think there's a number of reasons, to travel being one of them. The fact that it's freaking cold in the winter, right?
Can be. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can, like playing in California, you're playing Anaheim and L.A., which are and San Jose are all next door to each other. The weather's nice. Florida, maybe on the East Coast, right? Like, playing in New York, right? Like, it's just Edmonton's not number one, right? Well, I'd love to think that it was, but it's just not, and so be it. I still love the city. And so you got a guy that really wants to play, like a guy like Sam Gagne, or at when Smith was playing Smith.
Yeah.
I think you got to embrace that, like, and be that kind of franchise and find a spot for him, because I think he's not going to be your one or two line guy, although he can fit in when necessary. I think he's still got that capability, as he showed in that February 1st game.
I think you're seeing like a little bit, and maybe it's not this, but it seems like there's a little bit of a design to get a little bit more homegrown, players back to Edmonton by Holland here.
Yeah, well, why not get guys that want to play for the logo on their jersey, right? Like
Well,
that's
well,
that's
and I
that's
mean, if
character.
they if they played their minor hockey and kind of grew up in the city, then getting them back, for their professional career, they're not exactly going to be surprised by the weather in the city and all that. So
Yeah, I think. Hey, I think Edmonton's got lots to offer.
let's
Uh,
get Jake DeBrusk, please.
yeah. He didn't have an all-star season this year, but he's still a hell
No,
of a player.
no, yeah,
He's,
no,
and I like him. That DeBrusque family, hell of a family, right? Pretty character folks for sure. Yeah, I would love to have DeBrusque. Holtby, we've been talking about, right? Also
yeah, yeah,
local folks. But so that's where I was, where that tweet came from. I'm watching that February 1st game, and just reminded of just how good Gagne was, in terms of just from a character perspective. Like, he just showed, he's got a game face, and I love it. Like, I just love when he gets into a game. Like, he, like, he's one of those guys, when he has that kind of a game, he changes the outlook, right? Yeah.
I like it when he's mad and he gets into a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like, he's feisty, right? Like, he's not afraid. He doesn't back down. I mean, uh, he's not the player that he was, but he's still, and Bob says, he thinks Gagne is still good for just over 30 points over a full season. I think you're right. I think that's a good third, fourth line guy. Good character guy in the room. The
Well,
other thing that I took from that game, first, which I know you've seen this, and I've loved it. Every time I watch, I love it. There is nothing better than when was it Haas or Nygaard got the penalty shot? Haas. It was Haas, right? Bob the goalie's going to correct me here. Anyway, and he just after they cut away to.
it was Haas. Nygaard was hurt for.
That's right. Yeah, Nygaard was out. I knew one of them was out, and I always got the two mixed up all year. And they cut away to Yamo doing the stick flip. He's like, flip the stick, and then the look on Yamo's face at the end of the game, the smile on his face. I'm just like, those moments. Like, I it's funny because, and I go back to this all the time. I didn't think Yamo was going to play. Like I didn't think we'd see him play a career as an NHLer. I just,
Oh,
you know,
really? You didn't think he had the what it
I,
took to be an
yeah,
NHL player?
I just thought there were a few things missing, but now that he's clicked and he's found a spot, and also I think like he's got a little bit of confidence under him, and confidence will take you, a very long ways. Um, like I'm happy to say I was wrong. I am like I love the guy. Like he just there were a couple plays in that game where he's firing on all cylinders. We were talking about Archibald and Yamamoto and Tyler Ennis. Like this is a team that's got some little guys
Yeah.
that aren't afraid to muck it up, right? Like I love it. I love it.
Those little spark plugs.
Bob says I don't have a future as a scout. Yeah, we know. I'm I'm wrong just about every episode at least once. Yeah, so no, you're right. No future
It's
as a
just
scout. I don't even have a future as a podcaster, let alone a scout. Yeah, no, I mean, Yamamoto is like he just, yeah, that kid, like just watching the energy and all of that. I mean, who knows where he's gonna go. I'm not, we talk about just that type of a player. He's got some skill. He's got, he goes like he's tiny. He's legit tiny. If you stood him up beside me, he looked like my kid brother, right?
yeah.
He
I think
could probably pass for my kid, right? Yeah, he's not
I'm
very
thinking
big.
I'm thinking you got a foot on him almost.
Yeah, no, at least. So I mean, but he gets in there. I'm watching him. He's like, lifting sticks, and then he'll get the puck away, and then you know what he does? He skates right to the net, like, and doesn't slow down. Right? Like I love it. Like there's no little poke in the corner to try to get the puck away. He's right in there. He's hitting. He's doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to watch that guy. Talking about getting back to hockey. I can't wait to watch him and see what's next for this guy. Right? It would be a shame if he goes backwards, regresses at all. But I don't see that. Maybe I should just be quiet about that because I was wrong before.
Yeah.
Bob says Yamo's 5'8" and 153 pounds. So that's pretty much what I ate for dinner today. Yeah, no, Yamo's tiny.
I'm
God, he is
questioning the
tiny.
5'8" part of that.
Oh, he's not. He is not big though. He is not very big at all. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised. 5'8". I mean, and the only thing I could see is maybe smaller if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5'6".
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they try to add a couple inches.
Yeah.
We're guys, right? We always add a couple inches
Yeah. Yeah.
every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So anyway, that's that February 1st game. The other thing that I was thinking of, which nothing better than being on the Oilers live show and talking, dissing the Flames. Uh, what's it like to be a Flames fan? Like, I'm an Oilers fan. The, uh, sorry, we've got Brett says that was my recorded height and weight in grade 3. Um, what's it like to be a Flames fan during the shutdown? And every time you go onto Sportsnet, the NHL Classic is the Oilers kicking the Flames' ass in some regard, right? Like how does, like all of that stuff that you had trauma from watching as a kid, and it's just replayed over and over again. And then even some modern day games like this year, the February 1st game, which that had to be the 6th or 7th time they've replayed it. How would you feel? I get so much joy out of that. I'm not. I am yet to turn on the NHL classics and see a game where the Flames have beat the Oilers. I know that there's one or two out there. Obviously, there's the one with the Steve Smith goal that was the Calgary Flames, obviously in their favor. But and I'm sure they've played that, but there really aren't many classic Oilers Flames games where they've ended in the favor of the Flames. I can't think of any other than that one. And that's all Homer and me talking. But if you can think of one, let me know. Maybe Bob, you can. But it has got to be that has got to hurt as a Flames fan to turn the TV on, go to Sportsnet to see what NHL Classic games are playing, and it's another Oilers game, and it's another game where the Oilers totally deflated the Flames. I mean, wow! And there were some doozies, right? Like, oh man, I mean we are lucky. Maureen Toy says, hi, gents. Happy belated Father's Day. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's, I believe that's Mike's wife, Mr. Toy's wife. Or it could be Mike himself logged in as Maureen, which would not surprise me either. But I think, I don't know. I have to see. Yeah. Anything else on your agenda? I know you didn't, you've been doing some flooring and stuff, so you haven't had the time to devote to our big budget production here. But what's on your mind?
Yeah.
Hockey
Well,
related.
yeah. I question what's really happening too because when they put the ice into Rogers and the first day we saw guys skating, they haven't really kept up with that. So I'd like to know what's really happening there. Our guys still on the ice every day. They haven't really showed us much, so it kind of has me wondering what's really going on there.
Yeah, there's still only the 5 players there, right? Is what I understand.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and guys can arrive, I guess, whenever they want. So maybe they're all waiting till the very end because they're unsure too. I don't really know. Was Connor skating in Ontario? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, good question. I mean, obviously, I would say to you that Connor Draisaitl, they're definitely skating somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think probably. I don't even know if Leon's in Germany or if he's still in Edmonton
I thought he was
or
traveling the west in
yeah,
Western Canada somewhere.
yeah. He was fishing, I think today or yesterday.
Yeah,
Seen him with a fish, so I'm not sure. Yeah, and the Swedes, in Sweden, I think they could have been skating for months now. So maybe all the abs of steel from Sweden there
yeah.
will be lighting it up. Did you see that picture of Broberg?
What did I see it?
Jesus, he looks like Schwarzenegger. I'm
I
like,
know that's the
holy
first thing that
cow.
came to mind. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He looks pretty good. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's in decent shape.
yeah, yeah.
He's in decent shape. Let's hope
That
abs
kid is,
translate into good defensive ability.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how old is he now? Was he 17 when we drafted him? Is he just 18, or do you know?
He was 18 when we drafted him, so
So probably
yeah,
around
he's
19.
19. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
almost positive he was 18 when we drafted him.
yeah,
Um,
and I think he they can put him on
oh
the
no, he's 18 now. So
okay, yeah, and I think they can put him on their playoff roster so he can come and practice with the team and all that.
yeah, those are questions that still remain unanswered too, right? Seems
And
all pretty crazy, like when you consider, right?
I think they were allowed to have 30
30 players.
on their playoff roster, yeah, because they don't really have a farm team right now, right? Because the AHL's pretty much scrap. So
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's I hadn't considered that. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no farm team.
right. So they can go through and pick who they want to come. Pulley isn't eligible for that. In case people were wondering when he's going to show up.
Yeah, I I was done before, and I'm still done on the Pugliarvi thing. I know he
Yeah,
said never say never, but you know what, they could tweet all they want. Until something happens with him, I'm not
yeah,
really.
yeah. No, I mean, stranger things have happened in professional sports than him coming back. I think sometimes for especially a kid, a lengthy timeout can make somebody have a change of heart. So I'm I wouldn't write him off, but and I don't know. I mean, I, I don't think he's got the right attitude to be a really effective NHL player, but he's still young, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's definitely still young. He's got a little bit of time left. I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit tired of talking about it because it's all speculation, right?
Yeah,
And
and I'm honestly I'm sort of indifferent to him. It's yeah, okay, either way.
well, and here's the thing, and here I say I'm tired. We're going to talk about it. uh, this is a team without him, right? Like this is a team that doesn't need Pugliarvi.
Yeah, I
It was a big deal when we thought we needed that guy, right? When
right.
we didn't have Yamamoto, when we weren't running a second line,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's just it. Like
Yeah.
where would he fit in?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
if he comes and he shows himself to be the same player that he was in Finland, then great. Put him on the team. Throw him on
yeah.
Connor's line. Maybe he's the goal
Well,
scorer we're waiting for, right? I don't. I just we're a team without him, right? Like the Oilers are. They've got all the pieces. They've obviously got some improvements to be made, but some of the guys are young and they're going to get better as the seasons progress. I think
yeah,
this is a good team. I think Holland's putting together something really good, and
yeah,
if Puljujärvi decides that he wants to be a part of it and come out and try out and go through camp like everybody else,
yeah,
then good on him. If the conversation is he's going to sign a contract with an NHL out, then I'll tell you I don't think we see him
no,
on the Oilers. I
no.
think what that means is Holland's going to find a trading partner because I don't. I think the only way we see him on the Oilers is if he goes through camp and makes the team.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah, yeah,
for sure. You have to beat somebody out now. You're
yeah.
you're not gifted a spot here. No way.
Not now, right? I
No,
mean, I think that there'd be some upset folks. So he couldn't come mid-season to the Oilers. He might
no.
be able to go mid-season to another team, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, another team might pick him up and say, "Yeah, we'll take you mid-season," and assuming that he has another highlight reel season in Finland, right?
and
He did
and
well. He did well in Finland.
I,
There's no doubt.
I'm I'm not I'm not a capologist by any means. We own his rights right now, right? He's not really actually under contract anymore because his contract's expired. So do we have to re-sign him to a contract before we can trade him, or we just trade his rights and probably don't get as much?
Uh yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't understand
Okay,
all of the
good,
ins
good. All
and
right,
outs of
just
that, but
share.
I do know we have the rights to trade him. Whether that means we can't trade him for as much,
Yeah,
um,
okay.
I don't think the reality is until he steps foot in an NHL game, his his uh, his price is equal to another
Yeah,
Puljujärvi on another team, which is somebody who's just either A, underperforming, or B, you think
yeah,
there's a lot of potential there.
yeah.
He is a big unknown, and we are not going to get return of the kind of player we thought we had, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, and frankly, he could end up being a very good NHL player. Everybody was very excited about him. Uh, it's it is what it is. If he never steps foot on the Oilers' ice as an Oiler, um, I'm fine with that. I think
Yeah.
best to
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
No. He's definitely not the first asset that we've burned, and he won't be the last.
Yeah. Well,
And that's the same for every NHL team.
who put who put the all was it the Oilers Nation put the all Oilers draft team together? Um, anyway, it was we've just not drafted well in Edmonton, and so yeah, if we, if it's just another guy that you know outside of Connor McDavid, I mean, and you take out some of the guys in the '80s, we just have not drafted very well in Edmonton,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we've had some real first round duds. I'll tell you that.
But it's starting to come around a bit. You're starting to have a team, with guys that we've actually drafted. You've got Caleb. You've got Ethan Bear. You've got Nurse. You've got McDavid. You've got Draisaitl. You've got Nuge. So there's becoming a decent amount there of guys that we've actually drafted. So that is a little promising.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is about time. And in fact, had a little discussion. Bob the goalie will appreciate this. Uh, JDD, Jean Drouin, was it? Yeah, Jean
Laurier.
Delorier. Yeah, he was drafted 31st overall by the Oilers. Um, it's interesting. He played about 10 games, I think, in 08, 09, and then played the lion's share in 2009, 2010, which happened to be the year we stunk up the league, finished dead last, and he just had this awful season, right? But that same season, Dustin Penner finished with, I think, 63 points, if I'm not mistaken, as the leading scorer of the Oilers that year. So he wasn't getting any run support, nothing, right? And then, the reality is at the time though we also had nothing in the cupboards,
Right.
right? And how big of a difference when you look at that, and that's at the sort of the beginning, the first half of the decade of darkness, right? Like that to me is the case study on the importance of having a system,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, for so many years, the Oilers could just get away without having that,
Well,
real system in place.
for a long time, we were sharing a farm team too.
Yeah. I mean, and that,
That
it's legitimately the case study on how not to run a successful franchise, right? Like, you can win the lottery once, or in our case, 3 or 4 times, and then hope to build something from there. But the reality is you got to build a foundation, and you can't be and Jean Drouin Delorier was a good example. There was nobody to back him up. Here's a young guy that could have very likely first round goalie pick that could have very well played in this league for a long time. I don't know. I mean, who knows? You can only speculate. But he gets saddled with, a stinker of a team, right? Like he gets saddled with this, I would say, just awful team that, Bob says Penner, Gagne, and Brule were the top 3 scorers that season, right? Brule, right? Like,
Yeah.
So, his confidence is shot. right? And then he bounces around, ends up in the KHL, plays a year in Germany, and then comes back to Edmonton, right? And I think now he's in commercial real estate, if I'm not mistaken. He's still in Edmonton. But I think I think there was a player there. Like I think there was a goalie there, and one that if you had the right system in place, and we talked about this at length. I mean, every podcast in the Oilers world has talked about moving players too young, right? Like this is,
Yeah.
it's probably the second most talked about thing in the last 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
You yeah, and Bob says, that's right. I mean, they signed Happy Bulin to 4 years. He got hurt, right? And so then they had JDD and Dubnik. And then we almost ruined Dubnik, too. If he hadn't ended up in Montreal and then traded away and then
We did ruin Dubnik. He just got
yeah.
resurrected. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. But it's the importance of you know, having some type of a system. Like you look at Vegas, they had a system, right? But mind you, it was a little bit of artificially created because they got lucky in how the rules were made up
Yeah.
and all of that. But they still had a system. They had goalies to back up, and when they were on their like 20th string goaltender, they still had a guy that could play, right? And we just don't have that in Edmonton. We do now. I think we do now. I'm not sure that we have it necessarily on the goaltending side, although we've got two potential starters on our team with Smith and Koskinen, right? Both could be starters and are starters, I guess. We've got a couple of guys. We've got some young guys that are developing in the system. At least you can, if they don't develop the way you want, you could trade them for other goaltending prospects. I think that Shane Starrett's done a good job of earning his way up to, sort of push folks a little bit. I don't think you'll ever see Shane Starrett play in the NHL, but certainly he's done a good job of pushing the goaltending to a level where guys need to up their game in the AHL, and then you take it, a step further, and Bob also points out JDD had 10 NHL games experience before that season, and Dubnik had none.
Yeah.
I'm completely on a whole different tangent now. We're not.
Yep.
It's not an Oilers podcast if we don't complain at least once about the about the last 14 years, right? And also we've also had lived a little bit of the glory years in this past hour, and we've complained about the last 10, 15 years. I think we
you
pretty
were
much could retire as a Oilers podcast right now.
You were mentioning what's like to be a Calgary fan. I think being a kid that was born in the mid '70s and getting alive to watch 5 Stanley Cups. I think we got humbled the last little while here for sure, but if we don't win a Stanley Cup, it's kind of that's great. Whatever, we made the playoffs, but for me, it's not enough. So your level of contentment in an individual game, you're content with it, but at the end of the season, if you didn't win a Stanley Cup, then there's a letdown, and I don't know if you have that as a Flames fan.
No, you don't. There's just
So you got to temper your expectations, I think, and maybe it's easier for them.
yeah, maybe it is. But it's poor Flames fans. They've got nothing to expect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like probably being a Leafs fan if you're our age too. you've never seen him drink out of Stanley Cup, right? So
No, no, he's poor bastards. Eh?
it's
Yeah.
funny though because they seem to carry a bigger ego.
Why, it's like anything when you have a team that has dominated you for so long, and then I mean, the reality is they made it to the finals, right? And Red Mile, and then the following season,
Calgary, yeah,
yeah, and then the following season, who makes it? Edmonton. It's like they had their little, they had their run, and then uh, and the, and then the Oilers come back and top them again, and then they really, I mean, the disappointment for them is they've had all of this like expectation, and they've completely, I think, from a standings perspective, they've done somewhat better than the Oilers in the past 15 years, although they haven't really. I mean, if you look at they haven't made it out of any first rounds really, right?
yeah. And you know
Um,
what? With all of that, I take the Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights attitude. Like, if you're not first, you're last. And if you're not first, you probably should shut up because you got nothing to talk about. Keep
yeah,
moving along.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, I love it, right? Like, I love that. And even this year, right? Like last year, they're close to being President's Club trophy winners, right?
Right?
And and then
First
this
round
year,
exit.
right? They're
Yeah.
down, fighting for a spot, and we're coming in there and we're starting to get some momentum, right? Like it's got to be disappointing. It's just
Yeah.
I uh I love it, and oh, man, it's good to be it. Despite what we go through, it is good to be an Oilers fan. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of ups and downs. There is a lot of expectation, but I've enjoyed being an Oilers fan,
Maybe
despite
it's
all that. And we've got Connor McDavid
yeah,
and Leon Draisaitl.
maybe it's the Oilers colored glasses, but I've always thought that even in the dark days, you had Hemsky and you had Ryan Smith. You had some entertaining players to watch, and I always thought that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought we played an exciting brand of hockey. Um, oh, like an up tempo game, not a sit back and wait for the other team to make a mistake. We always seem to attack, even when Craig McTavish implemented a basic trap. In that '06 run, we were still an up tempo team.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's Oiler hockey, right? And that's like through the '90s. That was what made it entertaining, right? Like
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, if not for that, uh, you know, um,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, uh, Connor is the fastest guy I've ever seen. It's not even close. But
yeah,
Hemmer could wheel too, and he could stick handle in a phone booth, and the puck was on a stick, and you were just mesmerized by what the things he could do with it. So we've always had somebody to kind of carry us from kind of one time to another. I mean, before that it was Todd Marchant racing down the ice. You know what I mean? Like, there's always been a couple of players that have made it enjoyable to be a fan.
Let me ask you something. Is there anything in you like, now that we've had this time off and you've got time to kind of look back at the season that was,
Yep.
like, are you, and are you starting to get, like super excited about this team? Like, is this time off creating this, like, I hope it's not this elevated excitement that's going to be some type of letdown. But as I watch old games, as I go back into the season, as I think about just how big it was that Draisaitl finished first in scoring and McDavid finished second, despite some games off with injury, and McDavid returning from this big injury and this big lineup, like second line coming up, the emergence of Ethan Bear. potentially having two guys that can start in net over the course of a playoffs. Is it not hard to like? It's just you got to temper that excitement, but it's I'm excited. Like I'm
There,
pumped. I'm starting to sound like Chad here.
there's a couple things that um, I keep in check. Like I don't want to see this thing wrote off. I do want them to play a playoff, and it's not as much like I don't want to see anybody get hurt or ill or beyond any of that. But if they can do this safely, I want them to do it because I don't want if they write off the season and we go into next season. So and I'm not afraid of this, but that's one less year, that we have McDavid and Draisaitl under their current contract. And to me, that's a little bit of a big deal because when they come off of their current contracts and you go to re-sign them, it's probably going to cost more than it did. So that all kind of gets into salary cap management and all that. So I want that this season to go on. I want those guys to be able to compete for a Stanley Cup, and who the hell knows how far they can go? Nobody. They could win it all this year, or they could get bounced by Chicago. I don't think that'll happen, and I don't want that to happen, but it's a possibility.
Yeah,
And
I
and,
mean
and
Chicago's not a slouch team.
no,
They could come
no,
away with
and
something.
with a layoff like this, you don't really know what you're going to be like when you restart. But I hope I have a good idea.
Yeah, there is
It's,
some
it's a little,
consideration around this, this burning another year, right? And
yeah,
the folks that keep saying, we've wasted all of McDavid's prime years, they'll really
yeah,
enjoy this one, right?
right.
Yeah.
So that is something that I think about. But am I excited? Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at Leon Draisaitl. We all know what Connor's like, but look at what Leon did this year, and really last year too. And he's just starting to blossom. You know, um, you've got some good players here. If you can do a little bit of sprinkling to make it a little bit better, you've got a good nucleus. I'll probably offend Chad by saying this, but I do think we need to try to improve our goaltending a little bit. I think we've got good, capable goaltending, but if we get lights out on real goaltending, then we can do damage.
You're-
I mean,
Chad's gonna. I'm
yeah,
surprised he's not knocking at your door right now.
well, he's probably making the trek up here. Yeah. But honestly, like if you improve that and you sprinkle in a little bit more punch on your forwards, I think we've got the makings of a really good defense core, and I think it's only going to get better over time here. And if then it's trying to keep everybody all together. But there is a good mix and good nucleus here, and we got rid of some of the things that were dragging us down, and you know you I'm excited. Like, let's build a dynasty again. Let's get there.
Yeah, we've got all the pieces, right? It's
Yeah,
it's there's whether Chad thinks so or not, but either way, Smith. It's hard to say what's going to happen at the end of the season, right? Like we don't have
yeah,
him signed right now.
right.
Is he back? Does he have it in him to continue to play? He's not 30 years old. He's 38 years old, right? And
Yeah,
you know that's getting up there from a goalie's perspective, right? He, I'll tell you, he doesn't play like a 38-year-old. The guy's got some serious compete. The only time that I think he plays like a 38-year-old is when he's overplayed. And
yeah.
yeah,
And I think when he starts thinking too much, then he starts wandering and going a little too far, and it can haunt him. But yeah, if you stop playing him 4 games in a row, and mix it up between him and Miko, and the same thing was with Miko. I mean, last year he's capable in stretches, but then you overran him because you didn't trust Talbot, and yeah, it caused problems. So split the
So
duty and run away.
we have we're at 9:30, and so we're gonna get Brett connected here,
Okay.
and we're gonna do rip the ref. But we're going to take a break in the meantime, and we'll be back in probably about 2 minutes. Thanks for tuning in, and tune back in 2 minutes for Rip the Ref with Mr. Brett Luchansky, and talk to you guys shortly.